Today we're going to start talking about one of the oldest surviving world religions, Hinduism. Before we start talking about the basic beliefs, let's talk about the historical development. That is, where and how did Hinduism develop? Hinduism actually grew out of the beliefs of the people of the Indus River Valley and the Aryans. If you remember, the Aryans are the group of people that came over the Hindu Kush Mountains and invaded the Indus River Valley civilization. The cultural diffusion that occurred when the Aryans took over the Indus people resulted in what is now Hinduism. Hindus actually still carry out many of the old traditions from Aryan times, like getting married in front of a sacred fire and reading from a book called the Vedas. Hinduism is the oldest surviving religion. It was developed sometime around 1200 BC. It is currently the third largest religion in the world. Most of the people who practice Hinduism are located in India. Unlike many of the religions that we're going to talk about after Hinduism, there is no single founder. Instead, as I said before, it grew out of the beliefs of the Indus people. Let's talk about some of the things that are sacred to Hindus. Their sacred texts, they actually have two. There's the Vedas, which were a book that came out of the Aryans, and this is described as eternal truths revealed to wise men. That is, things that are always true and explain sort of life and death and the purpose of life, and how they were revealed to people. This is very complicated. So they developed something called the Upanishads. And the Upanishads is a book that basically explains the ideas of the Vedas in a more simplistic term. Hindu teachers interpreted the meaning of these of the Vedas and used meditation to find those meanings. Then they developed the Upanishads as a discussion between a student and a teacher to make it more simplistic for people to understand. Sacred places for Hindus include the Ganges River. The Ganges River, which runs through India, is sacred to Hindus because it's believed that when you go there and you bathe in its waters, you can actually cleanse your soul. And their sacred animal is a cow. Now, don't confuse this. This is not like pardon the pun, a holy cow. What it means is the Hindu people consider the cow to be a very useful animal. They produce milk, and from the milk you can produce all different things like butter and so on. And they can use that for food. They could also use the oil that comes off of the milk, like the butter, for lamp oil. And they actually use their dung for fuel. So because of their usefulness, they considered them to be sacred. Now let's talk about the actual worship and how Hindus worship, starting with whether or not they're monotheistic or polytheistic. Remember, these are very important words. Monotheistic, remember, means a single god is worshipped, where polytheistic is many. And Hinduism is a prime example of a polytheistic religion. Oftentimes Hindus choose what deity or god they're going to worship, and each family often has their own gods. There are thousands and thousands of gods. And these thousands of gods are all part of a supreme force or being called Brahman. Now, technically, Brahman is nameless and formless and far too complex for the average human to understand. So, in order to understand this supreme force, this Brahman, the thousands of Hindu gods help to give Brahman a form that the average person can understand. There are three main gods of Hinduism. Again, there's that universal soul at the top, and the three main gods that are worshipped are Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. Notice that many of these gods take on sort of an androgynous form where they're neither male nor female, and some people have their opinions as to whether or not they're male or female, and some are more obvious than others, but many times they don't have a sex. Moksha. Moksha is the ultimate goal for Hinduism. This ends the cycle of rebirth or reincarnation. And you have to sort of find your own liberation through a path of right thinking, right action, and religious devotion. When this cycle of rebirth ends, you become one with Brahman, that universal soul. You cannot reach Brahman in one lifetime. And because you can't reach Brahman in one lifetime, Hindus believe in something called reincarnation. Reincarnation is when a being dies and the soul is reborn. And in this particular religion, they believe you can be reborn into anything. It can be human, animal, insect, whatever. They believe that every living thing has a soul, or an Atman. An Atman is each individual soul. And that Atman can be reborn into anything, depending on how you live your life. Because the Hindu faith believes that all living things has a soul, they strongly believe in the idea of ahimsa. This is basically saying that you don't injure any kind of living thing. Because you can be reborn into anything, if you go and swat a fly or stomp a spider, you don't know that spider or that fly could have been your great-grandma. Because you can be reborn into anything. And you continuously go through this process of reincarnation until your soul reaches moksha. Now, how you are reborn, or what you're reborn into, is dependent on the ideas of Dharma and Karma. Let's start with Dharma. Dharma is your ideal way of life. This is sort of like your guide to conduct, the laws and social rules that you're expected to follow. And in addition to basically being expected to behave in a certain way, you're also expected to perform your duties, because each group member within a Hindu society has a set of duties, that is like work and roles that they're supposed to fulfill. So you're expected to perform them, and to perform them well. The better dharma you have, that is the better work ethic and you filling out your duties, the more likely you are to be reborn into a better circumstance. Karma. Now this is probably a word that most people have heard of before. Karma most likely is explained as what goes around comes around. And it's the idea that all of your actions in this life affects your fate in a future life. So if you're a good person in this life, your next life will be better because you've been a good person. However, there is the reverse. If you do bad things and are a bad person, your next life will be worse. And all of these ideas, moksha, karma, dharma, reincarnation, are all supported by an ancient Aryan idea called the caste system. This is very, very, very important to understand. The caste system, again, is based in Aryan social classes, and this is a socio-economic caste system, meaning it deals with people, but it also deals with economics or jobs. And there are a couple different main castes, and each of these there are thousands of sub-castes. So the Brahmins, or the priests, are at the very top. Now notice this is Brahmin with an I-N, not Brahmin with an A-N like the universal soul. That can get confusing. There's the Kshatriyas, which are the rulers and the warriors, the Vaishyas, which are the landowners and the traders, the Shudras and the laborers. Technically, this is the end of the caste system. There are thousands of subcastes in between, but this is technically the end. But oftentimes you'll see the untouchables put at the very bottom. Technically, they are considered to be so low that they don't even place in the caste system, but for organizational purposes, we put them at the bottom because they are so low, they're literally untouchable. The upper castes believe that you have done bad karma and dharma, which has put you in to the caste of untouchables. And because of that, if you even were to come into contact with an untouchable, if you are an upper caste member, it would affect your karma. So let's play, we'll call it a little game. We'll call it good karma or bad karma. I'm going to show you a soul, what they were, and then what they were reincarnated to. You tell me if that soul has good karma or bad karma. All right, here we go. This person was an artisan who became a fly. Did this person have good karma or bad karma? If you said bad karma, you are correct. Next one. Good karma or bad karma? You have a Hindu woman who became a merchant. This is sort of a trick question. The answer is good karma. Hindu women, doesn't really matter what their caste is, are always considered to be low. This is a very patriarchal society. Next, you have a sewer worker who became a peasant. This person had good karma. Sewer workers are usually untouchables. Untouchables do jobs like sewer work, cleaning toilets, servants. They deal with the dead bodies, they're grave diggers. And in some cases, even though most people in Hindu religion are vegetarians because of the idea of the Atman and Ahimsa, where the soul is constantly being reborn into different objects or living things, because these people can oftentimes be butchers for other religions that are not vegetarian. Last, you have a Hindu priest who becomes a warrior. While both of these are upper castes, this is bad karma. Remember, a Hindu priest or a Brahmin is the last step before moksha, and the warrior would be the next caste down. So this person actually took a step backwards. So what I'd like you to do now is think about this question. How do the caste system and Hinduism support each other? And think about it in terms of all of those big vocab words we talked about: reincarnation, moksha, karma, dharma, and so on. And be ready to answer that question when you come in tomorrow. Over the next week or two, we're going to talk about some other religions that were influenced by Hinduism. Just to give you some foreshadowing, we're going to be talking about Buddhism, we'll talk about Jainism, and Sikhism. Thank you.